Hello, East Goshen. Hope you had a great day and you are ready to dive into Luke this evening. We're in Luke chapter 18 tonight, and we're going to focus on verse 27. It says, Jesus replied, "What is impossible with man is possible with God." What is impossible with man is possible with God. I don't know about you, but I've heard this verse used in the wrong kinds of contexts. This in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, seem to be ripped out of their context and made to say whatever we feel like saying. We do a really good job of taking verses and kind of jamming our own meaning into it, but we have to focus on the whole context of where this verse falls. Jesus has just finished talking to a rich young ruler who has asked, "How do I inherit eternal life? How do I enter the kingdom of God?" And Jesus turns to him and says, "Keep the commandments." And the rich young ruler says, "Well, that's not a problem. I've done that since I was a child. Easy enough." But Jesus turns it on its head and says, "Sell all your possessions and give away everything you have to the poor. Then come follow me." And the rich young ruler walks away sad because he's a wealthy man and he has a lot of possessions and he doesn't want to give it up in order to follow Jesus. Jesus says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for the wealthy to enter the kingdom of God. And Peter turns to him and asks, "Who then can be saved?" All these elite people can't make it in. Who then can be saved? And that's where we find this verse. That with God, it is possible. What is impossible for man to do on his own is possible for God. And so yet again in the book of Luke, Jesus is talking about possessions and wealth and caring for those who are poor and disadvantaged. Again, and again, and again, and again, the author of Luke hits this so hard, more so than any other gospel. We see God's concern for the poor and the oppressed. We see God's concern for people at the margins of society, the people who have been overlooked and downtrodden by the mechanisms of the Roman Empire and of Jewish culture. God's concern is for those who can't help themselves. Jesus tells us this over and over in this gospel. And maybe you've gotten to the point where you're going, man, talking about the poor again, we're talking about giving all of our possessions, we're talking about giving all of our wealth. That's a tough calling. If that's what it takes to enter the kingdom of God, how can I even be part of what that means? How can I even be part of giving away everything that I have? And we like to make excuses and say, well, that doesn't mean that I have to give away everything. It doesn't mean that I have to sell everything. It doesn't mean that Jesus is commanding each and every person to give everything that we have. Every material possession, every earthly possession. And you're right, it doesn't mean that we have to give away everything. It doesn't mean that we have to make ourselves destitute for the sake of the gospel, but it does mean that our heart condition, that our character has to prioritize relationships and people over the stuff of life. And you may have said throughout these reflections, that is difficult. That is something I don't know if I can do right now. I don't know if I can give to people who are disadvantaged. I don't know if I can sell things and give away the proceeds. I don't know how I can prioritize the people better in my life. I'm struggling to do that on my own. And the good news that this verse gives us is that we don't have to do it on our own. With God, it is possible. Salvation is possible because of Jesus, and because of Jesus, because of what he has done for each and every one of us, we can be the kind of people that God's kingdom calls us to be. So as you go through Luke chapter 18, as you reflect on it this evening, ask yourself, how am I allowing Christ to change me more into his likeness? How am I allowing the Spirit of God to do what on my own is impossible? Not just salvation, but good news for all people. Good news for the poor. Becoming a blessing for others. How am I allowing Christ to change me into that kind of person? Because with God, it is possible. Thank you for joining me. I will see you tomorrow for Luke chapter 19. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you back here tomorrow at some point.